Go.
Thank you very much, Shai. Good afternoon to everybody, and advance best wishes for the weekend. We are here in the third of the series that I'm doing with CII on webinars on some of our writings. This one is on capturing new markets, which is linked to the first two, in that it helps you unleash the customer insight of jobs to be done, as well as the business model tools of Costovation to get you to turbocharge growth with new strategies and new ways of approaching the market in a really practical manner. And additionally, we're going to be speaking about how do you organize an enterprise to be able to pursue those goals. So for those of you who were not with us for the first two of our webinars, these are on three of my books. This one is on my first book, Capturing New Markets. That book came out 8 years ago, and as things are, whether it's a record or a business book, after 8 years, honestly, people don't talk about it very much. It sort of fades into the background. But I was particularly proud of what we did in Capturing New Markets because it took a lot of my strategy consulting experience from companies like Bain & Company, and I really looked at it again, saying, okay, yes, I went to Harvard Business School. Yes, I got this great business education, but that was a general toolkit meant for generalist situations. Is there something new when you have something really innovative or you're pioneering a new market? What didn't work when I tried to apply that traditional skill set in the internet boom, for instance? What can I learn from that? Capturing New Markets is a result of that study, as well as the study of waves of business history over actually millennia on how new markets got established. So it's a thick book. We're not going to go through everything in the book, but we are going to hit some of the highlights. So firstly, why do we care? Why are new markets important? So the data here on slide 3 comes from Capturing New Markets, and it looks at where US GDP growth came from over a 20-year period. And what's amazing is that about a fifth of US GDP came not from incremental growth of things that already existed, nor even from new industry segments like even Netflix or the extended stay hotel chains, but rather totally new industries. So new markets are a critical portion of overall economic growth, and they can create a huge amount of value. We see that in how some of the top US companies have come to be. If you look at the new markets that a lot of these companies have pioneered, sure, some of them were a while ago, like ExxonMobil, but this is how they got their start. And then once you do that, you can have an engine that delivers for years and decades, like an ExxonMobil. But you can also have a platform for continued innovation, as companies like Johnson & Johnson do every day. Excuse me. Additionally, new markets are a great way of reinforcing your existing business. So looking just within Procter & Gamble and Johnson & Johnson, just a couple consumer product companies, we see example after example about how core brands have extended themselves in new ways. If you look at Mr. Clean, which has historically been a solution for things like cleaning floors, you have the Magic Eraser that is a substance that helps clean walls. You have a Magic Reach Duster. There are additional cleaning tools. There's even a car wash branded Mr. Clean. Neutrogena is a beauty platform owned by Johnson & Johnson. And while they have been known as historically a sort of mass brand for mainly cleansing, they've been able to extend the brand onto advanced solutions that get shelf space because of the well-known Neutrogena brand, but also help to premiumize the Neutrogena offering as well by associating it with some advanced technologies. In this case, a machine that rotates and helps to treat acne in a gentle sort of manner. So they reinforce the core while drawing strength from the core as well. There's a lot of synergies, actually, between core and what at Bain & Company we used to call adjacency businesses. In doing so, think about Apple, for instance, with the iPhone and Apple Music or iTunes. It helped to create lock-in for the customer in an ecosystem of offerings that's very hard to leave. It certainly creates new sources of value. That graphic over there is from a paper called Beacons for Business Model Innovation that I wrote with Deloitte. You can Google that and download it if you wish. You can block asymmetric threats. There's a lot of companies out there, for instance, who are worried to death about Amazon. And this is from companies in the pharmaceutical and pharmacy business through to heating equipment, through to grocery stores. And they are seeking to enter these markets before Amazon claims them all on its own as a beachhead to then attack the rest of their core market. You can create new consumption occasions, for instance, by entering new distribution channels, and so thereby just expand the market that you can address by your company. And finally, you can also differentiate the core through some of these adjacency offerings. MedTech, medical technology companies, for instance, have been increasingly moving into services, not just selling technology, helping hospitals find the most efficient, not just the most medically effective way to deploy these technologies, which increasingly have become standardized over decades of use. So always think not just about the growth from the adjacency opportunity, but what the impact might be on the core business as well. So by way of an example about how industries get started, let's look at photography. And let's go way back to the genesis of photography. So early on, back in the 1850s, for instance, photography looked much like the person on the left. It was a very large camera. It was typically done in a studio because not only was the camera very heavy, but the images were developed onto large glass plates. And where your principal means of transportation was getting around on horseback, well, those plates really weren't very portable. Additionally, the photographer needed a small chemistry kit with them at all times to develop those images, and it had to be applied right away and required a good amount of expertise. Now, people did try making things more portable over time, so you got the